Okay, thank you for joining. Once again, we have a presentation that we've put together for you. I think this is going to be more interesting than the last one. So let us just jump right into it. Let me switch to this presentation window. Okay, as you can see, the title of this is going to be Hijacking Observation. And we're trying to answer a question. Has observation been hijacked by the elite? What kind of question is this? Nobody can force me to look in one direction. I'm in control of my eyeballs. So what is this tan man talking about? Observation hijacked. The only thing hijacked is those damn planes on 9/11. But before we get there, what is observation? Is it the ability to see? No. There you go. Already, when we asked the question, has observation been hijacked, you thought that we were talking about your ability to see. Well, that's a sense. That's not an observation. So what is observation? Let us discuss. Observation requires senses, such as seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, and tasting. However, the senses in and of themselves cannot observe. Let us take the example with my beautiful art skills. You have what seems to be a moon, okay? This is supposed to be a moon, and I'll explain what the signal is. This is you. Very happy guy you are. Aren't you just a happy guy? All right? You're such a free man. And then we have an output. Okay, so the input is the moon, which I labeled in green because that is your sense of seeing, being able to look at the moon. What is the signal? Let me ask you this. What is the signal? Well, the signal is the light coming off of the moon all the way to your eyeballs. You are the receiver. So when you see this light coming off of the moon, none of this is observation. This is only your ability to see, your sense of seeing. It is only when you contemplate what it is you're looking at in this area, the output, the contemplation, that is the observation. You have to make sense of what you're looking at. So when we ask the question, has observation been hijacked, we're not referring to your ability to see. Rather, we are referring to your ability to critically think about what it is you are seeing. And we're going to give some examples in this presentation which outline why we have the stance that observation has been hijacked by the elite. So again, what is observation? It's your ability to think, contemplate about what it is you are seeing, and then perhaps put a name to it. Call it something, a moon. Okay? Okay? When we look at this, okay, forget that it's horrible art, but when me and you go out and look at the moon, we all observe the moon. There's no question about it. Nobody says, well, that's a star or that's the sun. We all agree that that's the moon. So where has our observation been hijacked? Before we get to the answer, we are going to focus on a specific sense, which is the sense of seeing. So we're going to take you back to what you originally thought, which is observation is just your ability to see. However, it's not your ability to see, it's your ability to think about what it is you're taking in through your senses. In this presentation, we are going to focus on seeing and a little bit of hearing, I guess you could look at it that way. But more critically and more importantly, is we have now distinguished observation is not a sense. It's your ability to contemplate what it is coming into your sense. So let us take a further look. So again, we're going to give you the history first of observation using the sense of vision. This kind of sounds weird and it sounds confusing. Observation using the sense of vision. What? Because we just discussed that you can observe different things. You can observe the temperature of this by putting your hand to it, okay? But in this presentation, we're going to focus on looking and seeing. And first, we're going to give you the history of observation, which is the thinking process of a human based on his ability to see different things. And I gave you a very interesting drawing or picture, image, of something in outer space and the human eye. Very similar. We'll get there. So, who remembers this? Who remembers this dress in 2015, which just on X, which is formerly Twitter, reached over 200 million views? Okay? And what were they going crazy about? Well, they were going crazy. What color is this dress? Is this dress blue or is this dress black and blue? Or is this dress gold and white? Some people thought that this dress was gold and white, and they were convinced. About a third of the viewers were surprised that there were 66% of people looking at this dress saying that this was blue and black. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Well, that tells you that we could be looking at the same thing, but we could technically observe two different things. By looking at the same thing, observe two different things. Now, modern science will tell you, yeah, it might be the tint of the dress, it might be the brightness of the phone screen, it might be their inability to see different colors, or they might be colorblind, and that's why they're seeing white and gold. But this proves that we could look at the same thing and observe something completely different. Because blue is not gold. Black is not white. So when we look at the history of human sight, what is the first phenomenon that took place that the human was just shocked by? Well, it was actually his ability to see himself reflecting from a pool of water. You know the term narcissist, which is actually supposed to be narcissus, comes from the myth of a young man named Narcissus, who observed his reflection and stared at himself until he died. And that's why we say narcissist, because he was so mesmerized by the way he looked. He observed himself. And when you think about it, it's actually a pretty tough thing to do, to see yourself. You can see everything. You can see the stars, you can see humans, but you can't see yourself. So when the first human came across his reflection, his ego exploded. And we call it now narcissist. So now the ego, he observed himself, and now his ego came to life. What next? Well, he's always observed the stars, and he's been mesmerized by the stars, but he never put it to play. There was no point of looking at the stars. It was just something out there that we can't see. Up until the 8th century, when the Islamic Golden Age perfected, and they didn't invent, but they perfected what's known as the astrolabe. And this technology, basically, they would put it up to their eye, point it to a certain star, make sure that it's leveled, and it would be able to tell them time, direction of prayer, and their latitude, position with respect to Earth. So now, human realized it's not just me, it's not just the ego. There are other things out there, bigger, and they're so unique, I can use them to navigate or get specific information. Later, during the 16th century, bed bugs were becoming very popular. Okay? People wouldn't change their beds. But unfortunately, most of the time, they couldn't see what it is that's causing these little bites. And when they do finally see some type of insect, it was so minute, so small, that they could not actually figure out what is it. Until the flea glasses were created, which gave them the ability to look at microorganisms, small organisms, and observe, well, what is this creature? So now, from ego-centered observation of self to observing the heavenly bodies which serve us and serve a purpose, to now observing what is smaller than the ego. So now you have ego, bigger than the ego, smaller than the ego. Now we got a full observation. Wow, we're observing the world. We're observing ourselves, we're observing what's up there, we're observing what's small and down here. Advanced. Let us continue. This is a very simplified timeline. So when we say Narcissus had the ability to see himself, around the year 6000 BC, they created a black stone mirror, a specific stone, and they polished it, and they would look at themselves. Okay? And during the 8th century, that's when the Islamic age, the golden age of Islam, perfected the astrolabe. Around the 11th through 13th century, they invented spectacles, which are now called glasses. Some still use the term spectacles. And this also changed some aspects to our belief system, because it was always our belief that when an old wise man lost his ability to see, it was the will of God. That was it for him. His knowledge cannot expand. Now, after we created spectacles, now it's not the will of God. Now we can continue our educational journey. The 16th century, there was the flea glasses, and then Galileo perfected in the 17th century the telescope. So now we could look at the moon at 3 times magnification, and now we can truly observe certain features of the moon. Wow. Observation. So, you're here, you're in the middle. That's you. Beautiful face you got. Okay? And to your left is smaller things. Okay? To your right, bigger things. Okay? And you have the ability to observe yourself, to observe smaller things, to observe bigger things. Unfortunately, most of this technology is really controlled by the elite. I don't need to convince you. I mean, microscopes aren't used by the common folk. It's used by biomedical engineers and the medical industry. And even if you look at certain like jewelers, that doesn't serve the common folk. That serves the rich people. Even binoculars and telescopes, they don't serve the common person. The only thing that really serves the common folk is glasses. And I know you can make the argument that there are companies out there that still profit off of people losing their vision, but glasses still serves a lot of individuals. Okay? But I'm not here to convince you that all of this technology is now in the hands of the elite. No. We all know this. So when I say observation has been hijacked, I follow it by this question. What will you choose to observe? Let us look at what the human chooses to observe. With all of this technology, his ability to look at the heavens, his ability to look at, smaller objects, bacteria on the handles of his door. What do you think? Here's a question for you. What do you think that the human chooses to observe? That is so mesmerizing, he chooses to observe it. I don't think you're going to be surprised. Well, what's more important? What's more fascinating than me? Would you just look at me? Would you just, come on. Can anybody just look at me already? What are these people doing in this image? They're all narcissuses. They're all narcissists, or they're supposed to be, because they're falling into the same trap that the young man Narcissus fell into, observing themselves. If you actually look at all of these individuals, what's unique? They're all doing it. I'm going to give you a second. Look at every single individual. What is it that they're doing that's unique? Just to show you. Well, what they're all doing is they're all actually looking at the phone. They're standing in front of a mirror, okay? I want you to think about this. You're standing in front of a mirror, okay? And you're taking a picture. And instead of looking into the mirror, into the camera, okay? So that when you take the image and you look at the image is looking at you. Typically, when you graduate high school, what do they tell you? Look into the camera. When you take images with your family at weddings, look into the camera, okay? Because then when the picture is printed, the outsider who's now looking at this image, you're looking at him, and he gets to say, "Oh wow, nice people." But these people are so mesmerized, so shocked, so in love with the way they look, that while they're taking a picture of themselves, they're really not taking it for you and I to look at. Otherwise, they would be looking at the camera so that when we look at this image, they'd be looking at us. No, they're so mesmerized that they're looking at themselves, okay? They're looking at the reflection of the camera, okay? And still looking at themselves if you look at it. And some of them are even covering their face, you know? That's what the human chose to do. Focused on the ego. Now, we all know we have our own ego to deal with. But how does this lead to observation being hijacked? Well, as an elite member, when I see that all these people have phones in their hands and they're so in love with themselves. Of course, phones weren't the first technology to come out. What led to this? What led to the focusing of the ego-centered self? Well, it was propagated by elitists manipulating the individual to love thyself. What do I mean by that? Take a look at these shows or movies, and these are targeting women. And we'll start with women, but this is not an episode on men or women, or I'm just trying to show you how observation has been hijacked. When they created the TV and they put TVs inside everybody's house, okay? I'm not saying throw your TV out. Listen. They started showing people these movies and shows on TV, which actually are technically free. I mean, I understand you have to pay for the TV, but then when the show comes on, it's free. You're just paying for electricity. And what are these TV shows depicting? Well, when in the case of targeting women, they're depicting things such as this woman who is free, but she's the divorcee. Yes. Or these women who are tied down, because all women love to be tied down, and that's embedded deep in their subconscious, so we need to extract that. Horror. Or the psycho, because what woman doesn't like the psycho? Or without her consent, oh, she was raped. Okay. Adulterers, oh, a woman that loves two men. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, a woman who's married to another man and decides to shoot guns at him, but it's out of deep love. And my favorite, the Kardashians. What has this done to the psyche of the woman? You see, trauma doesn't necessarily have to occur in these women's day-to-day activities. All they have to do is observe it through other individuals or through the TV or through the newspaper. And then what would happen is they would somehow, some way be affected by it. Now, women think that 9 out of 10 men are there to rape them. Or he's a creep, or he's a psycho. Not because they had relationships where they saw these men, but because they saw TV shows, and the Kardashians slept with 17 men before they had 2 kids, and then divorced the husband. So now, when a woman goes out with her little pack of friends, like the Kardashian group, she's looking to resemble what the Kardashians are doing. In the way she dresses, in the way she presents herself. And her ultimate goal is not to be approached. Ew, creep, don't approach me. What she's actually looking for, subconsciously, is she's looking for attention from as many men as possible, but distance, okay? Because attention means I'm beautiful, but when you approach me, you're probably going to be this guy, okay? The psycho. What that has done is that isolated men. Now men are not able to have sex, and this is a big problem for governments, because when a man doesn't have sex, he starts to go crazy, and he might become a school shooter. Not good. So we need to give that man some type of release mechanism. So what would we do? What do we do? Well, we've manipulated the woman to fear, because it's easy to control her through fear tactics, okay? But the man, it's not so easy to control him with fear. What does man love? Well, there you go. We come out with Playboy, okay? We give him this woman who probably was raped and probably was abused, called Marilyn Monroe. And then we give him websites which, again, are free, such as Pornhub. Then he's laying down on his phone doing God knows what. And then you can even give him the real world experience, which is strip clubs. You know what's very interesting? This woman, okay, she's no longer subconsciously looking for attention or subconsciously thinking about being raped. She is being raped. But she's okay with it for her own reasons, and everybody has their reasons. And another thing a man likes is comedy. He likes to laugh. So why not give him this type of idea? The Hangover, okay? Give him this, we're the boys. We're about to get married, so let's go get strippers. Perfect, makes logical sense. You're about to commit to somebody, so go on a vacation and keep it away from her and get a stripper or two. That's funny. Infiltrating a man's mind and a woman's mind, and none of these men or women have experienced these things. Most men don't go on a vacation and get strippers before they get married. But the woman thinks that that's what they're going to do. And most women don't get raped and don't get abused, but that's what they think is going to happen to them because that's what they see. Sure, 1% might abuse, but that's not the majority. And you have 90% of women thinking that they will be or fall victim to being abused. So now that you have these two dialectics, what do you think the result is? Well, here's the result. Marriage statistics. Marriage rates have completely plummeted. That does not mean people have stopped having sex. Remember, marriage rates declining doesn't mean people are having no sex. It just means they're not willing to commit to each other. The graph on the right-hand side shows you the amount of children which have been born out of wedlock. Exponential increase for those of you who understand math. A very rapid increase. Now, what caused this? You would say, if the woman doesn't trust the man and she thinks he's a creep, and the man has no access to sex, so he starts going on pornographic websites, how does that lead to this? Well, that's not what leads to this. Remember, we have focused on ego-centered reality. It is all about me. Because when we watch the Kardashian, one of them goes off to the corner and she starts talking to the camera. You know what I. So this ego-centered belief mechanism, which has been instilled within all these individuals, because they have the phone, they have the TV, their parents had the TV, and slowly we have pulled humanity into this ego-centered approach to reality, leading to the decline of marriage, but still resulting in kids being born out of wedlock. And I wonder what our target with these kids being born out of wedlock, a mother divorced, just like this free mother. She's the divorcee. I got divorced. I became so happy. So now, what is going to be the result? And this is why they break it down and categorize it. Gen X, Gen Z, they categorize us by generations. Because every generation has its own specific, we have our own specific tactics to attack and target specific generations. And what is the solution? Nowadays, when everybody is isolated because they fear going out, okay, everybody's isolated, we prescribe them social media, which again is free. I mean, could you imagine? Multi-billion-dollar corporation, okay? But you can download it for free. At what expense? Nothing, just scroll. And now, these isolated individuals away from reality have reality in their hands. Scrolling, constantly scrolling. Now, when we ask, has observation been hijacked? Now we're getting closer. Because now, what we're seeing is no longer our choice. We're not choosing to go out and turn left or turn right, knowing what's on the right side, knowing what's on the left side. No, we're just scrolling. We don't know what's coming next. We don't know what's past the post. It's our algorithm. It's our feed. Let's just keep scrolling. And what do we see? We see people fighting. We see anarchists. We see people burning. We see people raping. We see people shooting. And maybe once we'll see a nice puppy. What does this lead to? Let us not focus on men and women, because that gets pretty boring. Remember this. Remember the Syrian revolution, the 13-day revolution? What if I told you that this revolution did not exist in reality? What actually happened is people were scrolling in Syria, and boom, it told them that there was a revolution going on. And because it told them that there was a revolution going on, outside there was no revolution. But because it told, everybody started believing. What if I told you, not only could you force man and woman to disassociate from each other, not want to get married, but you can also take over a country simply by hijacking people's observation. Because now people are seeing that there's a revolution taking place. Really, this revolution was just a bunch of terrorists out of Turkey moving south. And the generals of Syria, the army, the military of Syria, had no orders. And you know what the army did? They took off their coats and their hats, and they left the tanks. Because they saw what was happening on this. Intertwined with some poor leadership and lack of command, they took over the country without a bullet being fired. Not convinced. Allow me to get even deeper. Who is this individual on the left, and who is this individual on the right? And why do I say the dress with a question mark? This individual on the left is known to be Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who is dead, who was the leader of ISIS. The man on the right is the new Syrian foreign minister. However, what if I told you these are the same people? There is no difference. This is the same man. He just upgraded. And the reason people cannot realize this or is because they're looking at the same person, but their observation has been hijacked. Their ability to critically think about who this man is on the right and who this man is on the left, it's gone. Not only can I take over a country, but I can convince you the leader of ISIS is now rebranded into the foreign minister of Syria, and he has no relation. Just like the dress. Is it white and blue, or is it black? Is it white and gold, or is it black and blue? Is this the foreign minister of Syria, or is this Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi? They're the same guy. They're the same guy. How is this done? How could they take someone like this and take something like this and force something like, how is it done? I mean, we can't be that gullible. We can't be that stupid. Well, have you ever noticed these, I don't know what they're called, ASMR, very, like these videos that, like the marbles that we're looking at. The marbles all go around and they all fit into the hole at the same time. Or the guy that's laying concrete, oh, it's so smooth, it makes my brain feel ASMR, I don't know. Or let me push into this Play-Doh, oh, just looking at it makes me feel. Do you know this is a psychological operation taking place and you have no clue about it? When you're watching these videos, what comes next is the psychological operation. What these videos do is they open your mind up because you can't disagree with what you're looking at. Critically thinking requires the ability to disagree and say that is false. When I tell you that these two people are the same, you question it. That's not so easy for you to swallow. But something like this, there's no false, there's no, like, you can't say that this is false. There's nothing false about it. It's satisfying, if anything. And because it has no truth value, nor does it have any false value, you just take it and your brain bypasses or opens up the critical thinking ability. Oh, I need to critically think about this. I need to deny what I'm looking at. Oh, wait, this is nothing. This is no information that can hurt me. Open up. As soon as it opens up, when you scroll to the next couple videos, before it shuts down, anything that got in there entered your subconscious. And these videos circulate on purpose. To visualize this, you have the conscious mind, which is on the outside. The conscious mind is the 10%. Remember your teacher told you we can only use 10% of our brain? Yeah, because 90% of our brain is actually the unconscious, subconscious part. The part that we have no access to. And that's the part that the elite try to control. Because, look, if I control your conscious mind, okay, if I control the conscious mind, you can simply throw it out later because it's in your conscious. You know it's there. But if I manipulate you on the subconscious level, well, it's called subconscious. You have no access to it. You can't throw it out. And how do I enter the subconscious? Look over here. Critical factor. I need to get past this using a hypnosis state. How do I use that? How do I do that? Well, with these types of shenanigans. Or a sport that, the guy shoots and catches the ball and such. Oh, it's so satisfying to watch. There's no denying it. That information cannot be intertwined with reality, such as these two people. Because when I give you this, then I tell you this, then I keep going, and that's all I'm doing. Whatever's coming in, your critical thinking is just like, it can't keep opening and closing, so sometimes it just stays open. And whatever comes, sooner or later, you get off the TV or the phone, and you're just like, well, I don't care, let me go about my day. But it's deeply embedded in your subconscious. Deeply embedded in the subconscious. Can't distinguish between real and imagined. Permanent memory. Habits, emotions, protective mechanism. Who controls the algorithm? Well, the people that control these algorithms is this type of guy. Who's this guy? Well, he's a sex-fueled, bullied maniac who convinced you that we're going to Mars. Okay? Who's this maniac? He's also someone who grew up bullied, and they're important. To whom are they important? To these guys. The Republican and Democrat Party. Oh, save me. We need you hooked on your phones. We need you hooked on the news, because that is the only way we can control you. It doesn't matter if you disagree with us. We need you hooked. That's why the news comes out every single day and gives you negative news mixed in with some good. Because they can't give you all bad. Because then people would step away. So they give you good and bad. And then they give you important. And then they tell you what you should think. The vaccine. Take the vaccine. I like it. Maybe I should have never said that word. Anyways. So, observation and the ability to critically think is no longer attached to our logic or our ration or our critical thinking factors. No. By scrolling, we are subconsciously allowing ourselves to be manipulated. Sooner or later, there will be a civil war, but it will start here. And the individual who's constantly on here will believe it. And he will go out to and do you know the best way to shut down civil war, civil unrest? Just turn off communication. Turn off communication, because that is what caused the Civil War. You go outside and you look, everybody's normal. I mean, yeah, there's some weirdos out there. Those weirdos are probably attached to this. And do you know what I find to be very interesting? In every business, where do you put your logo? You put your logo right up on top, in people's faces. Hold on. One of the most notable companies, Apple iPhone, decides to put their logo on the back of the phone. Okay? And what is the logo? Well, it's a bitten apple. A bitten apple. What's the bitten apple? Signifying the forbidden fruit that Adam and Eve or Adam, depending on how you read the story, took a bite from. And what did that fruit resemble? Forbidden knowledge. Very interesting that we get our information and knowledge and wisdom from here nowadays, and we're constantly taking a bite, and all it took for our great-grandfather to be thrown out of heaven was just one bite. Hidden in plain sight, an operation of the CIA, an operation of the FBI, an operation of the government. And we'll end with that final note. What is government? As you know, English is derived from Latin and Greek. This word government. Govern. What is the word govern mean? When I govern something, I oversee, I control. For those who understand vehicles, there's always a governor chip in a car. Your odometer might say 140, but go on the highway. I'm not saying do this. I'm giving you an example. And if you were to put pedal to the metal, you would realize your car would not reach 140. So how do I get it to reach 140? You have to take out the governor chip, because the governor chip controls the speed. So govern just means to oversee, to control. What does the word meant? Where's that derived from? Mind. Government simply means to control the mind, to limit the mind, to oversee the mind, to make sure that the population doesn't wake up to the scam and the fraud happening on the elite level. So we need to control their thinking, their ability to think, their ability to observe. Put something in their hands, and they have no control over the algorithm. Regardless, we'll keep them in fear. Find me one person that scrolls on their phone from morning to night and is a happy person. So what I am telling you is, just as we have to watch what we eat and watch what we drink, we have to watch what we see on these phones, because soon there will be an attack on the spirit, on the psyche. And the only person who will be free And safe is the person that does not plug in to this. I'm not telling you throw your phone away. I'm telling you, you cannot sit there and scroll. But then again, there's so many people doing it that you need to understand, if you're just living in La La Land, all happy and in harmony with everything around you, there's a knucklehead, that thinks Donald Trump is his savior, that thinks that these people the immigrants are taking over. He's going to strap himself up and go, haywire. And you need to know about him. So perhaps I'm saying, figure out your own way, but understand that your ability to observe, okay, that ability is no longer in your control when you are constantly scrolling. You need to understand this and take heed of this claim. Otherwise, regardless of if you think you can or cannot control, you will fall victim. I'm not telling you that this subconscious level, I'm not telling you that this conscious mind is you're wrong here. I'm just telling you don't have access to this. And they're entering through hypnosis. Bypassing the critical factor. So I'm also a victim of it if I sit there and scroll. So are you. I'm not going to sit here and talk about dopamine levels in the mind. I could care less, okay? I don't care. What I'm telling you is there is a psychological operation taking place, and you are the victim. And what is going to come, because now they have everybody where they need them, and there's two parties opposing each other, or that's what they want you to think. Ultimately, they want to just continue to control you. Because right now, there's still an ability for an uprising. I don't know if you remember January 6th. I don't know if you remember those. I can't figure out if I should hate them or be shocked or kind of be happy. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I don't fall for that shenanigans. But what I will tell you is, wow, Donald Trump really has some power here. These people are completely insane and they're willing to die for him. And that's actually, that's unique. You have to admire it. I don't care if you hate the guy. I don't care. You have to admire that this guy, he never appeared before them in real life. He just spoke on the camera recorded him and they saw it. And they were willing to come from different states and overtake the Capitol. So, don't fear. Another thing you can't do is you can't fear anything in this earth. You can only fear God. And this is something you don't understand. To associate anything with God is not paganism. You don't have to be a pagan to be someone who associates something with God. Oh, I pray to this, God forbid, I pray to this fish god, and I pray to this cup god, and this is my water bottle god. You don't have to be one of those knuckleheads. There's no more polytheists. But if you fear anything besides God, and if you rely on anything besides God, then you have committed polytheism. Because fear only belongs to God. Trust only belongs to God. The state has replaced God. The state wants you to fear them. The state wants you to rely on them. The state wants you to trust them, not God. Because you believing, trusting, fearing God results in the state losing. So when you fear taxes and you fear the police and you fear all these other things, you are committing blasphemy. You're associating partners with God. Have no fear. Don't break the law. The law is there. You can follow it. But have no fear. Absolutely no fear. If a cop gets behind you, don't look in the mirror. Oh no, what is he going to do? Who cares what he does? He pulls me over. He doesn't pull me over. He's not my Lord. Throws me in jail. He's not my Lord. I have the story of Jacob and his son Joseph. And Joseph was thrown in prison. So it doesn't mean that just because I get thrown in prison that God is upset with me. No. Maybe God wants to honor me in that method. When you don't fear anything and do not trust anything and do not rely on anything except God, then you are a powerful entity. That doesn't mean start becoming schizophrenic and telling yourself God wants me to go and shoot up a church or whatnot. You know how some of these people are. Patience. It's God's will. These people, this world is supposed to become corrupt, and you're not there to fix it. That job is for Jesus Christ. The job is for Jesus Christ. You're not the Messiah, buddy. You're not there to fix the world. So why don't you take a back seat and just await and just accept God's will and just fear God, trust God? No. You fear the state, you trust the state, you depend on the state, anything but God. God is only for Sundays. So, my friend, you've been warned, you've been told. Do as you please. And again, if you have a question about our presentation today, please feel free to comment down below. Hit the like button, follow us. We have a lot of information coming out, bits and pieces at a time, of course. May God bless you, and may He send you a message perhaps in your dreams or in reality, so that you can think and contemplate and return to fearing only God, trusting only God, and relying only on God. Take care, my friend. We'll see you next time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. That will do it for us today.